Coming up next on Mental Health Matters with Marty, we are continuing the discussion and the celebration of superheroes in the pandemic. Stay tuned. Enjoy your life, be free, live life, enjoy your life, have some fun, enjoy your life, be free. What's happening, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing out there? Again, thank you for joining Mental Health Matters with Marty, and I am Martina Sellers, and I am your mental health hygienist, and I'm coming to you live from Southern California. Listen, I would say where the sun is always shining, but we're about to have a time change up in here, and we are so excited. Listen, my heart goes out to all of you who are in Houston. Y'all stay encouraged. Those of you who are without power, we know it's going to be cold out there tonight. Listen, go call loved ones, find some safety, some security, something out there, y'all. Let's show some compassion to those because we are experiencing some tough times in our nation right now. Listen, hello, Virginia. How you doing? Good evening from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. We want you to listen, guys. Put your people in there that you want to join us. We're going to have a powerful discussion. And if you have missed these past 2 weeks, as we have been celebrating the superheroes of the pandemic during Black History, we have had some amazing, amazing conversations with some powerful Black male therapists, powerful Black males in the education arena. And so we are not going to allow the party to stop right there. But I'm so glad we are going to have our first Black female on this series coming on tonight. And let me tell you, she is the bomb.com. But like we always say, this show is intended strictly for educational purposes. Let me say that again, for educational purposes. We are not a replacement of mental health services, but we are a supplement. So if you are experiencing any type of mental health crisis, we definitely want you to call 911 or go to your nearest urgent care. If you're in the Houston area, listen, pick up the phone, get some help if you need some help with that. But again, we are here to supplement your journey of wealth and mental wellness as we continue this journey. But we are so excited. Listen, hey, Joseph, what's up, man? Doing better. Hope you are doing well. Yes, Pam, good evening. Good to see you. Listen, get on in the room. Come on. Paula, how are you? Thank you, Paula. This is my brother's design, Alex Roberts. And love him. He's doing some amazing things out here in Southern California. So listen, we always want to support Black-owned and minority-owned businesses. And that's what we do. Why? Because if we don't help ourselves, no one else will. And I'm tired of waiting on other people to give me the opportunity. I create my own opportunities. Why? Because I am enough. Yes, Miss Penny, how are you? Hey, good to see you. I've been missing you. Yes, Justin, ready for a great show? I know that's right, Justin, my brother. Listen, invite people in the room. Invite people in the room. But we are excited. I don't know about you. I hope you've had an amazing Valentine's Day or Single Awareness Day, as my brother in the back has said and reminded us. Listen, Valentine's is for those people that we love. Listen, I have had a great Valentine's Day. I spent it with family, friends, and loved ones, and it was off the chain. Probably the best Valentine's Day I've had, and so it was great because we showed love. And my mother was insistent upon creating this baked potato bar. And so we had a baked potato bar for Valentine's Day. Of course, we had all the trimmings because I grilled some salmon and, oh, thank you, Penny, and some chicken and shrimp. And we just went all out. Hello. Hey, come on, Auntie. I knew you would be here. As soon as I let you know we was on the right time and the right place. So listen, welcome everyone in. I don't want to prolong this, but we want to bring in Damon. How are you? Bring in all of our amazing people who are with us. But let me start here. We were doing a series about COVID-19 and the pandemic. Then we did 12 Days of Christmas, the COVID experience. But I'm so glad that this brother is back with me. He misses me. I low-key kind of miss him too, but don't tell him that because I don't want his head to get big or swell up or anything like that. But all the way from the DMV, none other than a co-host that we're going to be coming back soon. I don't know when. We got to check our schedules. We're all living the good life, and we're so excited. But let's welcome back to the Mental Health Matters with Marty show, none other than Thomas Turkey Leg Davis.
What's up, my brother? Happy New Year.
Happy New. I've spoken. Not on this. Happy New Year, Thomas.
I miss you, Marty. We're back.
Like a cold that just won't go away. We keep
returning. Just like that bad money that just won't leave, right?
Now listen, ain't no money bad. Just keep it coming.
How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing well. See, your mama even had to laugh when I called you turkey leg.
Hey, Ms. Mama. Hey, Mama Sellers. I love you.
Oh, look, even listen, glad to see you, Thomas. And then even Paula said, miss you. I don't know, Thomas.
I miss everybody. I miss you, Marty.
Well, thank you. Miss you too, my brother.
Look, on the 15th day of February.
Yes. How you been, man?
Man, I've been awesome. Watch it, Trevetta. I've been awesome. Awesome.
Wonderful. Listen, awesome. You have been doing some big things yourself. So I don't want people to think that you have an amazing show that you do on Sundays that is talking about moving mountains, breaking barriers, and all of that. Thomas, tell us about your show, what you've been up to, and doing these type of things.
Oh, Miss Key said, hello, turkey legs. Are you joining in too? Really, Daryl? That's my welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Wow.
Your dreams honestly, were
you know what? I can't. Look, I have to be on the level, people, with Marty. Marty is doing some outstanding things on the West Coast.
Oh, stop it, man.
Marty is like a mentor to me. I tell him this all the time. He's like a friend. He's like a brother. He just got a whole lot going on. And I just love his energy. So what you see is that we are actually excited to be back with each other on tonight. Thank you for the invitation. I'm waiting for your response to my invitation, but we'll talk about that offline. But Move Mountains and Break Barriers has afforded so many people opportunities to be in an atmosphere where they can be in a non-threatening setting to where they can express themselves. We talk about everyday life, everyday struggles. We don't get so deep in the therapeutic approach. We just have conversations. And I believe that in 2021, we have to continue to talk things out and just say how we feel. Right. And as you always say, and as I have adopted, it's okay to not be okay. So thank you for the invitation, brother. Thank you for what you have imparted into me. Thank you for being a great mentor. And as I continue to grow, move mountains, and break barriers, I do not forget where I have come from. So thank you, brother.
Listen, I appreciate you. Don't make me sound like I'm dead yet. I still got some time.
Oh no, that great.
Watch your mouth.
That great looking kind of
Watch your mouth. It does what it has to do.
Seeley. What's up, Seeley?
Yeah. Oh, we're not talking to him because he's supposed to be on our show. Listen.
Hey, Seeley, how about he? You know what? I ain't gonna put him on blast tonight, but I will say check the cell phone, brother.
All I'm gonna say, he better not be on your show before he's on mine. I won't let that go. So anyway, bring up next. Listen, this next one he is no stranger to our show as well. You know, listen, I call on Cory whenever I need someone like Cory, I need you in 1 hour to be on the show. And you know what? I appreciate brothers that you can call like that. And I ain't talking to him.
Neither am I.
But so glad because, you know, Cory has just launched a new radio show that I'm so excited for him about. And, you know, let's bring back to the stage one more time. We're so glad to have him all the way from, Cory, your area.
The DMV.
I know, the DMV. We're going to keep.
My neighbor.
I got to quit hanging out in the DMV. Y'all just drive me crazy.
You love us. You love us.
That's beside the point. But none other than Cory George.
Hey,
what's up,
everybody?
Cory?
So, I'm good. I've been in recording mode, so that's why you see me looking like I'm in in the Steve Harvey Morning Show gear. So, yeah.
Are you singing tonight, Cory?
No, I've been talking for hours, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to talk to you, mental health people, sidebar clowns. It's okay.
Listen, but you know what? We have to learn to laugh and enjoy life
Absolutely.
so much more.
Absolutely.
Life is too short. I think one of the lessons that when I look back, Cory, over 2020 is learning to appreciate the moments, the now moments that we have. Because too often we fret so much about the future and we regret so much of the past that we stop living in the now.
But but I also think that it makes mental health conversations more comfortable when you're realistic, right?
Yes.
So if I'm
Yes.
talking to you and I'm not using all the jargon and all and all the professional stuff, um, it's 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 um it's easier to swallow. It's easier to digest. That
Right.
it's not just coming from a person that is probably looking over you, but we're partners. My clients are saying, I'm
Yes.
your partner in your healing. I'm not over you
Right.
because I learn from you because sometimes I have to check myself against your progress. So having conversations, that are lighthearted and we do mix in the serious stuff, but then we come back, we tell a joke or, we joke with each other. That helps the image for us
Yes.
who already feel stifled by even thinking about
Yeah.
talking about the subject. So I think that these types of shows and shows that we can also be friends and we can also clown and we can
That's right.
so we're human.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have to normalize our experiences, and I love this that Tracy Moore, she said this way. This is a new now in this. Forgive me, Tracy. He said this is the new now. So our new now is really living in this moment and worrying about what we can change right now. I do that oftentimes in session now. I'm like, let's just appreciate this moment right now, because we're missing so much because we're so worried about, well, I got to worry about this, I got to pay this. Let's take a deep breath. Let's experience this now moment in what we're living. Right. Deep breathing. Let me bring on the other guest, y'all, and we're going to start getting this on.
Yeah.
Listen, this young man, if I had his knowledge at his age, what I have now, I might be dangerous. But he's doing some amazing things out in Houston. I'm glad he can be on the show because, as we know, parts of Houston are experiencing some power loss. And so one of our dear friends, Rhonda, who's been on the show, she had just called me right before and said that she's a single woman and look, I'm putting all her business out there. But she's they tearing off her power, and it's going to be 10 degrees out there, and so that's kind of harsh. But want to bring to the show this young man. Listen, he is a associate professor at University of Houston. He is doing the thing. This is none other than Doctor. Come on, somebody. This is an earned doctorate, not one of them honorary ones that they're passing out. Let the record show he got an earned, meaning he went to class, meaning he paid the bill, meaning he did a dissertation. Earned. Touch your neighbor and say earned. Earned doctorate. But this man, he's brilliant in social welfare, and we need more people in that area. So welcome to us once again, none other than Dr. Donte Boyd. Dr. Boyd.
It's not 10 degrees. If it was 10 degrees, I would be moving home.
Right. And tell them where home is at.
Los Angeles. Yeah.
Thank you. The West Coast, aka the best coast. We not want to brag, but
But you got the East Coast on tonight, so don't start.
Well, hold on. We're about to outnumber you because Dante automatically comes to my side with that.
City of Angels.
City of Angels, baby. City of Angels. Now, it might be Hell's Angels, but we still the City of Angels. Dante, how you been out there, man? How are you?
It's good. I'm good. It's a blessing. I didn't lose power all day, so that's been nice.
Yeah.
And thankful. But it also speaks to like where I live in Houston.
Right.
The income demographics is a lot higher. So, it's like, I'm glad I moved to the space where they go first. But it's unfortunate for those who live either further out in the suburbs, which Houston, as you probably know, the suburbs are sprawling and they go to the point where people are out without power, and it's only an inch of snow. It's not actually not bad.
I know, down there, y'all gonna get a little inch. I grew up in Ohio. So, we would have blizzards and all that, and snow drifting up the side of your house and all that. Like, listen, just put a log on the fireplace and keep it pushing. Now I got all these East Coast folks. Thomas, yours don't count. Tracy Moore talking about East Coast Queens. Come on, listen, y'all in New York, y'all on a whole nother plateau. So Thomas and the DMV, y'all can't even compare to to New York. Yes, sir.
Marty, I matter. I matter.
Yes, you do. Yes, listen, but y'all be kind because we're gonna welcome a lady on the show now. A real one, a real.
Really?
Watch it, Auntie. You belong to me, not Thomas.
I love you, Auntie.
But this young lady, y'all, and I don't know if you ever caught some of the other shows. She is phenomenal. Started off with one of my youth, so I'm kind of dating myself. But I'm gonna dye my gray later. But one of my youth, when I was a youth pastor at Friendship Baptist Church back in the day, and I'm so proud of her. Not only is she a therapist, but she has also written this amazing children's book called ADHD is My Superpower. And she is a super powerful young lady, and this is kind of where I also caught the idea from her and Danny Ross about the superheroes of the pandemic during this time. So let's welcome, if you will, none other than the astounding, soon-to-be world-class name, none other than Miss Alana Moore. Alana!
Hello!
How are you, darling?
Good.
How's that book coming?
It's good. It's going good. Thank you for all your support.
Listen, that's what we're here for, about supporting young people, what they're doing and how you're doing it and so forth. So we're glad to have you. Y'all are something. Yes, we try to be something out here. Now, congrats. See, everyone's congratulating you on your book. Listen, we're going to tell you how to get that book, because if you have not gotten it, it is on Amazon. So make sure you buy it. It's an amazing book to share with your young people, because we have been misdiagnosed too often because of, we want to say that ADHD is a bad and a negative thing. But when you take that ADHD, listen, some of us will pay great money to have the energy that some of our children have. Right. In that.
Ooh.
Right.
Can you put the name of the book and like the other podcasts in the chat? So
we definitely will.
And everybody else can see it.
And I have two children. I have two children with ADHD, and let me tell you, if I had their energy, I would be building Adobe huts every day.
Sure, you're right. Sure. So since we're talking about that, let's open up there. First, I want to applaud all of you. When I thought about doing this series this month, too often the work that we do, whether it's mental health, whether it's life coaching, in the classroom, like Dr. Boyd, what you're doing, we are still overlooked in our contribution, what we have been doing. And I don't know about you, my workload has increased since this pandemic. It has. And I wanted to salute all of you for the amazing work that you are doing, and just say thank you for your hard work. Thank you for doing and being in the trenches. And thank you for being the serving, what we might even call, but I don't think we're the underserved, but helping to serve those who would not normally, in the traditional way of getting service, get service. So I salute each and every one of you on today for that. And publicly thank you for being the superheroes, not only of this pandemic, but in our communities. So I salute all of you today, y'all. Real talk with that. Yes.
Thank you.
So since we were talking about that, Alana, see, I love it. That's why we brought you on last, because you were going to kick us off with that. Let's talk about this whole, and Dr. Boyd, I know you've seen it as well, this whole, what I like to call misdiagnosis and misunderstanding of ADHD and how it has affected our communities negatively. That's why I love Alana's book, because she turned that into a super thing, a superpower, and making us examine how we interact with our young people differently. Cory, I'm going to start off with you, because you talk about how you have two young people in your house with ADHD, but I love how you're harnessing that. What are some of the misdiagnoses? See, love this. Yes. Ayana's just saying thank you for serving the most vulnerable in our class, in our schools and classrooms. How do you deal with that, and how do you help change our mindset as well as the outlook of our children?
Well, I think for me, growing up in a household where we didn't talk about mental health and we labeled um, excessive energy as bad or excessive energy as as annoying. Um, Having two children who both have ADHD, but it shows up differently.
Right.
I try to harness that with some type of creativity. It's like, what are you thinking about? What can we do? How can we turn this into, as you said, a superpower?
Right.
Where can we focus that? Because it is energy for my youngest kid.
Yes.
He will come and tell me, Father, I have way too much energy. What can I do?
Right.
Okay, well, let's write something.
Yes.
What's on your mind? What are you thinking about? So that way he doesn't feel that, although he's in class and some people see it as negative, because unfortunately, some of the educators are not as informed.
Right.
And so the first thing they do is they think that because you are a disruption that you're bad, and that's not the case.
Right.
Sometimes he's done with his work and he's a very smart kid. So let's not mistake
Yes.
if if you have ADHD that it automatically impedes your learning.
Right.
I have my oldest kid who has ADHD, but for her, she may need extra time because her energy kind of occupies her mind, and it's hard for her to pay attention. So the more informed I am, means the more informed I can inform them of themselves, so that way they don't see it as a negative thing, because they're combating negative messages from schools and from other people.
Yes.
And I also work hand in hand with the teachers. We have the IEP plans. Are you doing what you signed on to do? Because once you sign that agreement, you are obligated to follow their path. And then I get calls and they say, well, your kid is acting up. I say, well, have you followed your IEP? If not, call me back. If not, call me back. So I think we have an opportunity for parents to be as informed, because both of my kids have therapists. Although I'm a counselor, I am not their therapist. I have to draw the line.
Right.
But
exactly.
I work hand in hand with the therapist, saying, okay, after this session, are there tools that we can do for those extra 6 days I don't see you, or those extra 6 days that my child is not in your service? What can we do? It got down to the point where, as I'm taking a class now on integrative medicine, when they were young, there were certain things I didn't allow them to eat, because we have to understand that in terms of nutrition.
Yes.
My kids didn't eat anything with red dye. So the Slurpee, you didn't have a Slurpee. You had fruit juice,
Right.
And, and it takes
things
us to have the conversations. It takes us to do our own research, because therapy is a once in a week thing. And so they're doing the best that they can within that hour. And now as a parent, I have to follow through with that.
I love that. And I'm going to throw it to Thomas and then Dr. Boyd, Donte, because I want to talk about, from the educational point of view, where we have missed it and what can we do as a community? What can our parents do differently to help balance out that when they get that diagnosis? Because many parents, I'm sure, are devastated and, like Cory just said, don't know what to do with such a diagnosis. So I'm going to toss it to Thomas, and then right after Thomas, Dr. Boyd, I want you to even talk about it on a higher education level as well. Go ahead, Thomas.
But first of all, I want to shout out Mr. Cory George, because he says something that many parents need to hear. And what Cory said is he follows up with the therapist to figure out what needs to happen for those next 6 days. And that is very key, and that's very critical, because the follow through, the consistency, the routines, all of those things are very key and important to dealing and managing ADHD. Let me also say this: ADHD is not necessarily a bad thing. I have ADHD. I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over again. But we got to know how to challenge it, how to keep it in order, how to manage it when we find ourselves getting off course. How do we bring that back? And those are some things that I will always encourage therapists and parents to always do. Let's not minimize ADHD. Let's not make it a negative stigma.
Right.
I'm just a person that has a lot of energy. So guess what? It's okay. But we got to make sure that we are taking that energy and applying it to something that is of interest, engagement, and progression. Because
Say that again.
Energy, interest, Marty, don't mess me up now. Energy, interest, and engagement.
Yes.
Because if I'm excited about it, I'm going to become interested in it. Once I become interested in it, I'm going to engage in it. And that's going towards my educators that are on this line tonight. When you are working on those lesson plans, put some movement in your Zoom classes. Let's do some jumping jacks and say alpha, beta, gamma. Let's do those things. That is okay. You are still
alphabet.
You are still an educated professional
right.
by adding in movement.
Yes. Yes. And then by the time we get to the collegiate level, talk to us, Dr. Boyd, what you're seeing and how even you might have, because Thomas answered the question, and that's almost a rhetorical question. How do we deal and teach those on a collegiate level who might have ADHD or have a 504 plan or something like that?
So I have undiagnosed ADHD, which
Me too, Dr. Boyd.
So it's hard for me to teach and stay focused. I think the problem is boys and girls have been jumping around for thousands of years. This is nothing.
Yes.
Right. And so it comes from a lens, like some countries have removed the diagnosis of ADHD.
I think we should.
Because of this fact that all of a sudden now they have this diagnosis after they've been jumping and playing around. And so medication is involved. So big pharma is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and it's so quick to give somebody a pill. And
yes.
So being mindful of how we can say, well, my kid has this excess energy, like it's been said, rechannel that, but also being mindful of how much medication you're taking. And so, but I think it's a larger systemic question around healthcare and not being afraid to talk to your doctor. Okay, look, I need my kid to, maybe some meds to help them calm down, but at the same time, I don't want them taking too much.
You don't want to be zombies.
Exactly, right? Because medication does something to us, not just in that moment, but long-term effect potentially, right? And so we have to find ways to create this balance. And so I played sports. We weren't allowed to sit down at home. We was always doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But that comes with resources, right?
Yeah. And you're a huge sports enthusiast.
I'm a huge sport. Like, I like being outdoors, right? Teaching from Zoom is horrible because I'm usually that teacher that's moving, that's walking up and down. And so sitting at Zoom, trying to keep my hands from hitting the screen and the camera is hard. But I think we have to find a balance. But we have to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
And just be the Google doctor.
Right.
And call our friend and say, no, we have to find courage to reduce this asymptomatrical information with talking to our provider and saying, hey, how do I reduce the energy or keep them focused without being on that? I refuse to go get diagnosis, one, because I don't need medication to tell them to calm and sit down. But I understand, like with the TV on, and things going, I can stay focused. So I never used the library. And people say, well, how did you get a PhD? Look, I studied with the music going and the way that fits me. And so how do you find that fits a kid to keep them focused? Sometimes sitting them in front of a TV all day is not going to keep them focused because they don't want to do it. They're just forced to do it. So listening to your young one and understanding what they're saying. If someone's saying, I need energy, I need to go outside, I need to go play, well, let's go play. Like there's my friend who's a therapist. She says she allows her kid to cuss once a day. Just get it out.
Right.
And people might say that's a bad thing. No, they're letting that frustration go.
Right.
Speaking of that, a good friend of mine, Dr. Sean Stewart, who is also a bishop and everything, but he oversees a series of schools in the Houston area and charter schools in that. But he says he gives, are you ready for this, Alana? He has a cussing chair in his office, and he says you got 30 seconds to get it out. He said, now some of them kids cuss better than the adults, but he says, but then when you look at it, that they get it where because that's what they see at home. in that. But I love also, Donte, you talked about how you've learned how to balance that out, doing some things, and especially outdoor activities. Wonderful. Wonderful. I know you definitely go hiking. Let's look at what Stacy says. Still, they still need to be individuals, yes, and learn how to cope through it without all the medications. Come on and talk to us. Yeah. We don't need our children so hooked on it where they can't be without it. I love it. And then James Wright also said this about how Ritalin sucks. When we're talking about that, that's again one of those. Listen, don't be afraid, and I'm going to encourage you, just like everyone on here has said. And then Alana, I'm going to toss it to you about even those who may have just heard it for the first time. I want you to share your story of why you wrote your book about even the diagnosis that they had given to your son. But we cannot be afraid, like Donte or Dr. Boyd has told us. We have to have these conversations, and Cory even says, with our medical providers. Ask questions. Mm-hmm. Don't just say, and then start taking a journal and write down how you see the effects. Okay, when I gave him this is what happened. When I did this at this time, I noticed this. Keep you a 30-day log with that. So when you go back to the psychiatrist, this is not my child, because what you're giving is not what I want, because it's to take the edge out and help them to function as naturally as possible. So Alana, I'm going to throw it over to you. Share with us your amazing story about why you wrote this story and dedicate it to your amazing son, and all the hell you had to fight through to make sure that your son was not lost in the cracks of the education.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things that we went through. When he first went to elementary school, he was only 4 years old because he was in like a traditional kindergarten. And anyway, long story short, he was doing well for a while, and then they started seeing behavior in him, in the classroom, I guess. But the way that they addressed it was very punitive, negative, and not so much, we want to help you. It was like, we need to get him out of our classroom, or we need to get him out of our school. So obviously that broke my heart. And I'm like, that's not happening. There's something that's going on at the school, because if he can function in church, if he can function at his after school care and all of that, and at home, something's going on, and again, I take accountability, and I do not just blame, the school and teachers, but I'm like, what is going on to where, he's acting out so much there? So I was really trying to figure some things out, and they were basically saying, he just destroys everything and all of that. We just need him out. We're going to suspend him and all of these things. So like one of the gentlemen said earlier, the IEP is so important. And so I knew that. So I was like, well, he needs an IEP in place, individual education plan to protect him. Teach us. These things occur or happen. They didn't want to give it to him at first. So I'm like, so really, you don't want to support us at all. You just want to get him out. You don't want to give him protection. So I had to go to the district office and get them involved, the special education lead of our district. Basically told her what was going on. She wasn't okay with it. I also went to a special education attorney just to consult. They didn't even have to pay any money. She just basically, told me what they were trying to do. And so anyway, when I got them involved, then all of a sudden they got him an IEP and everything like that. But really what inspired me to write is that even when I first got his news of his diagnosis, I, was like in a state of sadness and mourning. And I felt like I kept going out in the community and having to explain him to people. And I'm like, no, like, why is this the perception of who my child is? My child is not just his ADHD, and why does ADHD, why is it negative to everybody? Why is it negative to me? And so when I look at him, I'm like, he has so many incredible things about him. His mind is constantly moving. So like everyone said, that you're always on the go, very creative, very honest, very persistent. So I'm like, we need to highlight this. I want my child's narrative in his head to be, I am of value, and I actually have strengths in this. Because he's going to hear it enough from the school negatively. I wanted to impart some positivity in him and say, this is what I see, and this is what I want everybody to see about you, because ADHD is actually your superpower, not your crutch. So that's how I came to the book.
I see you chopping at the bits, Thomas. I see you.
This is the therapist head that is coming out. And I see some people, I see some students on my timeline that's watching that have children of ADHD.
Right.
What you are witnessing to our viewing audience is a parent that did not let what somebody said negatively about their child to make that be the deciding factor. She said something that was very key, y'all. She changed that narrative. She was persistent. She went through the emotions of feeling sadness. She went through all of that, but she never lost sight in taking care of her responsibilities. So as a therapist, Mom, I want to salute you and say, hats off to you. You are the true superhero on this call tonight because you didn't allow what the school was trying to do to hinder your child. So thank you for that.
But I love that you definitely established for those who don't know some of the protocols. If your school doesn't accept it, you go to the principal, they don't accept it, then you go to the district. If they don't accept it, then you just go ahead and listen. I'll be right back. Attorney, I need you to meet me right here because see these people think I'm up here playing and I'm boo-boo the fool and they don't even know. They don't even know. This is what I do. How you gonna deny me what I do? Hold on. My attorney wants to talk to you. Right. You know, and Cory, you have this amazing connection. I love this. Let's talk about this link, Cory, about trauma and ADHD.
Yeah. So I started thinking about myself, and I know this for what I do for work. But when I look back at I was 15 years old in the 10th grade, and it was 3 years after several years of dealing with childhood rape and neglect and all this, and I couldn't focus in school. My worst year in school, I was if I look at the symptoms of ADHD, it was me. But little did I know, 30 years later, when I started to study trauma, I was like, oh, that wasn't ADHD. It was symptoms of my trauma. And so how
response to it.
Yeah. So it was my response. And so what I urge parents and even educators, that if you notice this energy, find a way to have a deeper conversation to figure out what that source is. Because sometimes it can uncover something that the child does not know how to express, doesn't have language for. So they act it out, you know, or that energy was their coping skill throughout this whole thing. You know, so when you see them being hyperactive or what you consider hyperactive, it may be that was the way that they coped with whatever they've gone through. And that's the mechanism that's the only way that they know. They don't have a language for it. So there has, the thing is, if you can't talk about it, but your body shows it, if you can't talk about it, your body lives it. So when you look at the body, and when I work with my clients, it's a matter of, okay, if you don't have the words, tell me how your body's feeling.
Right.
Tell me if your heart is racing. Tell me if you feel clammy. Tell me if you feel frightened. Because those are words you can't say. So again, we have to kind of have that deep dive conversation. And this goes out to the educators because I believe, most of them are trained on how to notice, let's say, signs of abuse. And they have, and they have to tell certain people, by law. But there can be a deeper conversation when you look at the, at this hyperactive child acting out. It may not be about abuse, but it may be something that they've dealt with that they just don't know how to talk about or how to get out of their system.
I'm so glad you said that. In our first show, we talked about this whole concept of emotional intelligence. But with being able to identify what emotions we're dealing with, because a lot of times in those, since we're talking about trauma right there, Cory, a lot of times we don't have and I'm even saying I know some adults who don't have the vocabulary that can say, hey, I'm feeling angry or this triggered me, or I'm having a flashback, or I have this undealt with deep emotion and trauma that I don't know how to express, or I'm afraid, because come on, can we be honest? In our culture, what goes on in this house stays babies in this house, and I'll kill you if you say anything, because how dare you bring shame to the family? No, how dare you violate me and then tell me to keep it a secret? Why is it so important that we make these type of conversations and awareness in our community? Why is mental health and having these mental health awareness, whether it's through, and I'm going to talk to you, Dr. Boyd, through social justice, through our public health, through social work, through therapy, through all of these things, through education? Why is this so urgent that we have these conversations in our community today?
Because childhood trauma, one follows you for the rest of your life until you
yes,
right? And so some of the things, even in practice, when you're working with clients, they'll draw back into when I was a kid, I used to do this and now I respond this way.
right.
Or I can't talk about my feelings because nobody in the house used to talk about their feelings.
Right.
I remember I had a client who used to tell me, my parents never told me they loved me. So when my partner asked me to say, do you love me? I don't know what to say, because I don't know what that feels like or what that means, right? So things from our childhood, we have to find ways to address it through therapy. But also even in terms of ADHD, how it stifles you, right? We talk about ADHD and, gives you this energy, but trauma, I know in my own life that it impacted that energy, right? Then I lost it and I don't want to deal with it, or I was acting out in an irrational way until I dealt with that trauma, right? So they don't happen in a vacuum. And as you get older, if you don't deal with it, you start to implode mentally.
That's it. That's it. That's so true.
And you see these, I'm 50 years old, not saying literally, but 50 years old. And I'm like, I'm just now realizing that all these things were happening. So how do we get to a place in our community where young people are not waiting so old to get older to then look back and say, well, I went through A, B, C, and D. How do we get to a place where we're having these conversations? And so in my class, I use scenes from like The Rich People Got It Right? They go to therapy. You see them on the couch. What is it about the poor people that I ain't going to the couch, but you watch me all the time. And the message is, something happened, I'm going to therapy. Right? So we look at it, we want everything they got except the therapist. And it's like, it's okay to seek help, but we have to create those spaces.
Yes.
Often too many times it's like, why are you going to therapy? You okay? Right? Like, and it's like, instead of just being supportive and say, okay, you need to talk to someone. And sometimes also normalizing, you don't have to talk to me.
Right.
I don't understand what you're going through. That is okay to say.
Yes.
And maybe I can help you find someone, right? That doesn't make you a bad friend, a bad uncle, because you can't provide the advice. It's not about us. Or, so I think it's a lot of these little things we have to undo and re-socialize our kids, that it's okay for boys to cry just like girls. That doesn't make them less than, right? Because these things impact us over time.
I was having that same conversation, not to cut you off, so sorry, about the whole perception about what manhood is and womanhood is. I was talking to this young man, and he was just saying that, crying is weak. And so when I talked, he says, well, have you ever seen your father cry? One time, but then he said, oh, there was something in my eye. So his perception about crying is, if you cry, therefore you're weak. But he's angry all the time with that. So we have to change the narrative. So I like this. Joe Moore says this is such a worthwhile discussion, because we need to have more discussions like this, because we don't talk about it. And the thing is, people say, you're a therapist, you see crazy people? Says, no, I see sane people who are trying to keep from going crazy.
But
go ahead.
I think also the community violence.
Yes.
Right? And so when I started going back to therapy to realize that crying was okay, was because I grew up in South LA, in a part of South LA where violence was constant. And so when violence is you become desensitized.
Yes.
So like when people would die and get older, it was like, oh, that was just a way. And then as I remember last November 2019, it was like the first time me and death were not in close proximity. And I started to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to, like, my therapist was like, it's okay to feel sad and to sit there in that sadness. And so re-socializing myself, like, wow, I was in a neighborhood
right
that constant violence handicapped these feelings and
yes
how I was feeling about certain things. So now it's like, oh, I can cry, like, or should I be crying, right? Like, but the thought of that was not given to me as a kid. But I mean, you shouldn't have to have a PhD or be a therapist to understand how these neighborhoods and these family contexts impacts our emotional well-being.
Yes, I love Tracy. He says I'm just a ball of emotions. Says no longer ashamed to cry, and we can't be ashamed to cry. I want to get one of the comments here that Misha Davis is saying, and so let's bring it. It says, my grandson has been faced in this same situation. Both are grandsons, both are autistic, but the younger one has diagnosed with Asperger's, ADHD, and autism. We had to fight some more. You got to listen. Don't allow these diagnoses to keep you from fighting. Do your research. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Just like someone who would have cancer or anything else, you're like, I might need to get another opinion. Get you additional opinions when it comes to your mental health if you don't trust who's giving it to you. So I just said that for free. Says he has been in and out of hospitals. School and hospital tried to give him medications. Says we are from the Caribbeans and believe in holistic herbs, not weed, but natural herbs. Now, there's some of mine I will say, listen, you go do a puff pass and come on back in. But you didn't hear that. But we are dealing with special ed attorneys because of the LAUSD discrimination. So many of you are going through different things like that. And then also she says, I also have worked as a supervisor for the LA County Probation Department for 14 years. And at least 80% of the psych therapists would want to give kids medication. It's so sad because they feel that's the answer. But most times it's traumatic trauma that they came from. Exactly. Some parents stepped in and said no, but some were just not aware of the options. You're absolutely right. Yes, part. Go ahead. Address that part, Cory, for me.
Again, coming from a background of not being able to have the conversations yet, my youngest brother was schizophrenic and I didn't know. And, unfortunately he's gone now, but I found out after he was gone, but I was like, but what if I had information that could, help, not that I felt guilty, but again, I had to become comfortable because I didn't want to repeat the cycles, in my family. But the thing about medication, and this is my opinion about it, is that medication should be used in cases where it's impeding satisfactory way of life.
Yes.
And even in counseling, if you need medication, because I know that for a fact, if your symptoms are so overriding that counseling cannot be received, I may have to refer you to a space where they can at least have you stabilized. That doesn't mean you have to stay on it. That doesn't mean that you have to stay on it. That means that, every 2 or 3 months you go see your psychiatrist and you look at how it's affecting you. For example, if it's making you feel like a zombie, that's not a good thing.
It's not.
Because underneath everything you're going through, there's still a human being under there, and there's a personality that you don't want to stifle. And it's, again, having the language, because some people, especially in our culture, they take the first opinion, as you said, this is what I want to give your kid. Okay, because parents get frustrated, and our first answer is operating out of our frustration and not out of the needs of our child. I need him or her to be quiet so I can do something. So help me with my frustration, not necessarily help me with my child. So parents listening, if you're talking to your doctor out of your frustration, that's mismanagement of your child, because because we model that stability for them. We have to be, we have to know how to regulate ourselves. And if we're not doing that, and the first answer is, let me throw something at my child, they're going to grow up thinking that if something's wrong with me, I need something else outside of me to feel better. There's no conversation. Let me just find a quick answer. And that can lead to addictions and other things as well, because you've taught them to cope outside of their own body.
You know, one of the coping mechanisms I definitely thoroughly enjoy is family meetings. How many of us have family meetings to address the traumas, to address the negative behaviors, and we hold each other accountable? Now, one of my business coaches gave me this new definition of accountability. Accountability is protection. Think about it. When I'm holding you accountable, I'm protecting our family, protecting them from hurt, harm, continued negative experiences, continue from renewing the trauma. So if I'm now holding you accountable in our family meeting, I'm holding you accountable because I want to protect you. I want to protect our family because I want us to heal. Imagine if we took that approach to accountability and family meetings, how different that would feel. With that. Yes. Alana, what do you think about that approach to dealing with some of the things and we're dealing with family dynamics and in our community?
That is so important. And the reason why I think so, I think this whole conversation is amazing because when I work with young adults, primarily men, and a lot of them, when I am holding a space for them, that's the first time that they say that's the first time they're like letting out how they feel or how they felt as a young child, you know? And while I'm so glad to be able to hold the space for those young men, I'm also wondering, you know, what could have happened if they had this type of a space, you know, when they were younger, the space with their own family, you know, so that there wasn't all of this, you know, trauma or and resentment that they're now talking to me about. But if we as families hold the space for our children and for each other, we won't need to hold on to that because like you guys said, sometimes parents, when you're talking about the parent-child relationship, you just want the child to behave a specific way, but you won't allow them to process what's actually causing the behavior or what's actually making them anxious. You know, they need to process that and not just move on from that, because then they're going to grow into adults that still have all of these things that they did not get to process. And it just came out of this different behavior. So it's so important that families hold the space for each other and communicate what the needs are and really be open to meeting each other's needs instead of, you know, that mindset of like, well, I just want my needs met. It's like, yeah, but what does your child need? What does your spouse need? What does your sister, brother need? Like, we all have needs. And how can we work together to meet those needs instead of sweeping it under the rug, causing some resentment and causing more family dysfunction?
Yes.
But can
Thomas,
I say that
okay, go ahead, George.
That also fosters the point that we're all connected. You know,
yes.
If you have 3 sisters and 4 brothers, there's no reason for you to ever feel alone, ever. If you have parents that are alive, there's no reason for you to feel alone. The reason why we feel alone is because the way that we have or have not attached in our childhood, you know, as you said, that trauma follows us. So if I know that I can call my brother and sister anytime and say, hey, you know, or just for a check-in, I feel secure in knowing that I'm not alone.
Yes.
So, you know, and so again, when people feel like they have to be alone out of protection, out of fear, usually that comes from how we were not attached in our families. And that comes from the absence of conversations that makes us feel safe. That comes from the absence of saying, how are you feeling? Not what's wrong with you, but how are you feeling?
Yes,
those are 2 different questions, right?
Different questions. Yeah, you're absolutely right. How are you feeling instead of what's wrong? Because what's wrong points, there's blame. How are you feeling is an open-ended question in that, so that you get a true, honest feeling about that. Go ahead, Thomas. I saw you chomping at the bits. Go right ahead, my brother.
No, I can definitely see like-minded people on here tonight. Cory took my initial word that I was going to say. 2 things that I practice more recently than ever since the pandemic and 2021 is 2 words. The word safe and another word called space and places. We gotta. I love the word accountability, right? But sometimes people take that word accountability and they use it in a negative aspect.
Negative, yes.
So what I like the word safe is that where is my safe space in my house, right? When there is a lot of trauma that's going on, when I'm witnessing abuse, when I'm witnessing my mom and my father going at it, or I'm witnessing some of any type of abuse or trauma, where is one safe space that I can go into my house? Another opportunity is, what is the safe place? The safe places should be in everyone's home, where when you sit down, and that is that safe place at that dinner table for me to look at you and say, Mom, I love you, but the way you told me to shut the F up was not cool. And each other are able to go back and forth in a non-threatening environment. That is something that we as therapists need to really put in place while our kids are at home, working at home, doing this remote learning, while parents and husbands and wives and boyfriends or whoever are in their homes right now. We need to learn how to teach the difference between a safe space and a safe place, because it's definitely different.
Right. You're right. I want to go to a comment that Jason Mahoney had definitely talked about and said in here. It says, family dinner. It says, a time was once a very important time in the family. We need to get back to those moments. It allowed the family to openly share. Not only was food shared, but healing and wisdom was as well. And I totally agree. I came up in a wraparound environment, and we would have these CFTs, family team meetings. And during those CFTs, they knew the more food I brought to that meeting, the heavier the discussion was, because food is such a comforting place. I brought everyone's favorites. When I brought everyone's favorite, they knew, Marty about to attack us bad. But you it's hard to yell when you got a chicken leg and a piece of pizza and your favorite chips and everything right there. You're like, well, before I get mad and leave, let me at least take these chips with me. And then it changes our chemical makeup in our brain and helps us to digest and these things a lot better. With that, y'all, I can't believe this time. The hour has gone by so quickly. We need to have a part 2 in this at a later date so we can come back, because you all were all phenomenal. And with this time always goes fast. It goes by way too fast. With that, Alana, I know in the comments we want to put back up. How do we get a hold of you, and how do we get your book?
Oh, yes. I did put my book link in the comments. It's called ADHD is My Superpower. There's also a Facebook business page called ADHD is My Superpower. And my Instagram is No More Chains, 2 O's, all one word. So, yes, thank you for your support, everybody that has said that they've gotten the book. And just thank you again. Yes.
It is such an amazing book, y'all. I can't stress to you. Listen, take the time, support this amazing young woman as she's doing, because we're ready for the next book to come along there as well. And let me tell you how much she's encouraged me. I've actually written my first children's book as well. Yes, I hear you, Misha. We got to do a part 2, because this young lady has encouraged me to do that. So we are trying to get there some amazing books out there for children and families today that are written by Black authors who are talking about mental health in this. So Alana, thank you. Dr. Boyd, how can we get a hold of you and follow up with what you are doing?
Just email me. I'm always at my computer since I'm working. But yeah, my email is dtboyd@uh.edu. Doing research, we have some projects going across the South around the family context and health.
Yes.
And then also I do therapy on the side for families in COVID here in Texas.
Wonderful.
So staying a little too busy, and then trying to keep myself sane. Right. So I'm getting on my therapist's nerves.
Now, are you accepting new clients right now in the Houston area?
Oh no, I'm doing it for volunteer purposes. I'm not active. I'm doing it because they asked, they needed more.
Well, we love that you're doing it to volunteer.
Yeah. No,
God bless you.
I'm just a professional. I like that way. Y'all stay in practice and keep.
Listen, we all trying to grow up and be like you, so we all can get a PhD after our name. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, thank you so much. Cory, talk to us about this amazing new radio show you just launched.
Listen, so I've been recording. It launches March 4th on iremixradio.net. There's a Roku channel for the radio station.
Come on,
We're
Roku.
going to go on iHeartRadio, and it's called The Bridge, and it was a TV concept at first. And I said, well, COVID's not going to stop my show. And it's with a station that was started by someone that knew me from years ago. And this is how, when you stay connected to people that know you, things grow.
Yes.
So this show really is about these awesome conversations. My last conversation was about 3 Black male authors during COVID wrote 3 socially conscious books for our Black children. So these conversations, and they're all about mental health at some point. But I'm excited about the fact that I get to talk about whatever I want to talk about, but as long as it's focusing on us, our power, and uplifting us in the darkest of places, I'm here for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Cory, I can't thank you enough, definitely. And Thomas, I'm not even going to call you Turkey Legs. Thomas.
If you search Turkey Legs on any social media, you will not find me. Okay.
Talk to us. How do we stay in touch, and how can we catch your next show with Move Mountains, Break Barriers?
Okay, so you can find me on the following platforms: Instagram, YouTube, which is Limitless Possibilities. You can follow me on Instagram at Limitless Outcomes. The website is www.limitlesspossibilitiesforyou.com. And on next Sunday, that's my email address. Same tagline. There you go. On next Sunday.
On next Sunday
at 7 p.m., I will be on Facebook Live, and we're going to be having a great discussion. And we're just going to be talking about toxic relationships. So it's amazing that we was talking about trauma on this evening, because we're going to be talking about healthy and toxic relationships and understanding when it's time to actually let those things go.
Yes, awesome. Well, again, guys, I cannot thank you all enough for taking out your busy time. Listen, this has been so powerful. Everyone, please like, share, host a party for us, a viewing party, so that other people can get this amazing information out there. Again, my name is Martina Sellers, and I am your mental health hygienist here in Southern California. Please follow me on the following social media websites and sites there, and I'll wait for you, Daryl. So on Facebook at Mental Health Matters with Marty, on YouTube by my government name, Martinez Sellers, pero no habla nada español, and then on my website at mentalhealthmarty.com. There you will find lots of amazing mental health awareness, merchandise to help you along in your mental health and wellness journey. And please check out my podcast. And the podcast is Mental Health Matters with Marty. And please, Apple listeners, we would love for you to give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. You can also do that on Amazon, because I'm on Amazon podcast as well. So you please become an iMatter member by texting iMatter to 855-717-1272. There you will get all the exclusive things that is coming out on Mental Health Matters with Marty. As we always declare and state every show, we are so grateful that you tuned in to us. We don't want you to secretly suffer in silence in the shadow of shame, but take this information and learn how to speak up, speak out, and live. As always, we want you to enjoy your life. Until next week.
Enjoy your life. Be free. Live life. Enjoy your life.